Over the last 2 years, we've seen some unprecedented changes in the new and used car market. Prices have skyrocketed, inventory is tight, and demand is incredibly high. This dynamic shift that we've seen over the last 2 years has changed the car market for, well, ever. And though we are on the up and up today, prices are beginning to fall, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, things are looking better than they've looked in a very long time. But despite this, there are many things about the used and new car industry that aren't going to be changing quite as easily, if at all. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking this down and we're going to be talking about where the used and new car market is heading as an industry, not only from a price perspective, but from an industry and experience perspective as well, because things are going to look drastically different in the future than they did a few years ago. So let's get started. So let's just dig right into it because we have a lot to talk about in this video. Now, over the last 6 to 12 months, I've talked a lot about used car prices, new car prices, and how this has affected the affordability and the vehicle experience of the average buyer. And today, rather than talking and concentrating about pricing, I instead want to talk about the automotive industry as a whole and some of these things that we are going to begin to see shift more and more in a different direction compared to how things were pre-pandemic. Now, some of these things are a direct result of the pandemic. Others were simply accelerated because of the pandemic. But there is definitely one thing that needs to be made clear, and that is that the automotive industry has been changed forever. And a lot of industry experts believe that we will not return to an industry like what we saw back in 2019 or before that. Now, the first one that I want to talk about is microtransactions. Now, this is a really fancy word for basically subscription-based services or subscription-based features. This is something that I made a video about last week, and it's something that is going to be a new trend in the automotive space. And it's something that I think many of you, including myself, really do not like the idea of. This is something that has made headlines in recent weeks because BMW recently announced that in South Korea, they would be implementing an online marketplace where customers could subscribe to vehicle features. For example, heated steering wheel for $8 a month, heated seats for $18 a month, M suspension, and other features like that. But the thing is, BMW is not the only company doing this exact same thing. In fact, almost every single automotive manufacturer is following suit, if not already doing this. And for some reason, nobody's really talking about it. Toyota recently announced that they'll be offering a slew of different features on a monthly subscription basis. For example, remote start via the Toyota app for $8 per month. Ford is doing something very, very similar. GM announced that they will have 50 subscriptions available within the next few years. And according to online sources, car buyers in the future should prepare to spend an additional $135 per month in subscription fees or microtransactions. Microtransactions are where the automotive industry is heading, whether it be for a one-time purchase that you can buy on an online marketplace, or alternatively, monthly subscription similar to a Netflix account for things that you want, whether it be a luxury feature, performance feature, or safety feature. This is unfortunately where the industry is heading, and I don't see this going away anytime soon. This is going to heavily impact the affordability of a car, especially if you want a car with a lot of features. Dealerships are also drastically going to change, but this is going to be more of a slow burning change over the next 10 to 20 years because of the fact that the automotive industry has billions of dollars invested in these massive dealerships, and this isn't going to be able to be a change that is done quickly. But the reality is that as everything is going electric, manufacturers are using this as an opportunity to change the sales process and to train us, the consumers, to adopt a new sales process for these new electric cars. And in doing so, manufacturers are switching to a direct-to-consumer model, similar to the Tesla model. The direct-to-consumer model in the context of buying a vehicle resembles something more like buying a computer than it does actually buying a car. You simply go onto the vehicle manufacturer's website, like Tesla, for example, you configure the car that you want, you go through a checkout process, you buy the car, and then you secure funding online. It takes the car buying experience, which is something that the vast majority of Americans dread, and it turns it into something very simple, very streamlined, and the thing is, consumers are really leaning into it. Ford, Volvo, Mercedes, Rivian, Lucid, and even GM are all manufacturers that are now offering online ordering for a portion, if not all of the vehicles that they have lined up. And the thing that I think is really interesting about this is that in the present day, this change isn't quite as noticeable because the vast majority of the cars on the road are still gas powered. So if you're wanting to buy a car and you want a gas car, you still have to go to a traditional dealership. But the thing is, these car manufacturers that I've mentioned here, as well as the vast majority of mainstream manufacturers, manufacturers have goals to switch to a 100% electric vehicle lineup. And whenever this happens, what is the role of the dealership going to be? And it's going to be drastically different than what it is today. GM, Ford, and Honda are all manufacturers that have announced that they will be scaling back the footprint of their dealerships. And rather than having massive lots with massive buildings, they will instead have smaller buildings that only are there to show you what the car looks like, give you a test drive, but doesn't have a ton of inventory that you can choose from. With this new change, the role of the dealership is going to drastically change as well. Dealerships are no longer going to be a place that you go to predominantly buy a new car. Instead, a dealership is going to be where you can either A, go and check out a car to see if it's something that you're interested in buying, so feel it, test drive it, see if it's a purchase that you want to make. Option B, buy a CPO or used car, or option C, get your car serviced. But where the industry is heading, a dealership will no longer be a place where you purely go to buy cars and deal with salesmen. That will be shifted to nearly 100% online, with the exception of used and CPO cars. This, of course, brings us to a very related topic, which is inventory and how many cars dealerships are going to have on hand at any given time that you can buy. A number of major automotive players, including Daimler, BMW, and GM, have announced that they will never return to pre-pandemic inventory levels. That these shortages that we've had throughout the pandemic and since the pandemic has taught these manufacturers how to work more efficiently and how many cars they actually need to produce. The thing is, over the last year and a half, vehicle manufacturers have been dealing with major bottlenecking issues and subsequent inventory shortages. But despite these shortages and inventory qualms, manufacturers have still been able to make insane amounts of profit at record-breaking levels. This has in turn taught vehicle manufacturers that they don't need to manufacture cars to meet demand. That creating a little bit of a shortage is actually a benefit to them, even if it's a man-made shortage. The days of being able to go to a dealership, find the brand new car that you would like to buy, spec'd out how you'd like it, and being able to drive off with that car that same day, those days are very limited, if not over entirely. And this has been backed up by executives of extremely large car manufacturing brands. And that brings me to my final point, which is pricing. Now, I've mentioned in a number of videos over the last 6 months that pricing is going to fall. Car prices are going to become more affordable, prices will decrease, and this is something I firmly believe in. Prices are going to fall. They cannot remain at their current levels. But are they going to fall and return to pre-pandemic numbers? And I think the answer there is no. And there are many different reasons for this, but some of these reasons are the points outlined in this video. The fact that dealerships are changing, people are buying cars 100% online, the fact that inventory will never return to pre-pandemic levels, these two things alone are going to cause prices to go up because there will always be a certain level of demand associated with new cars. There are a lot of different reasons as to why car prices have been so high over the last year and a half. And some of these are issues that are completely out of the control of the manufacturer. But don't be fooled. A lot of these factors are completely in control of the manufacturer. And throughout this video, I've stated a number of different changes that manufacturers are planning or are already beginning to make. And these changes are going to affect the long-term pricing of vehicles. Prices are going to fall, but they are unfortunately not going to return to pre-pandemic levels anytime soon, if ever at all. But with that being said, you guys, these are some of the changes that I believe are going to be happening in the future, both in response to the shift in electric vehicles, as well as in response to the pandemic. And though some of these changes are completely out of everyone's control, many of them are in control of the manufacturer, and they will have a drastic impact on us as consumers. But like always, you guys, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I'll see you guys in the next video.